Hey YouTube members and Patreon members, thanks for hanging out with me for another exclusive video. This video is, this is kind of like a step in the Wayback Machine for me. I want to show you the greatest headstock of all time, and then I want to tell you a little story about the greatest headstock of all time and what the greatest headstock of all time is going to be later, and where I got the inspiration to do this. And this is, when I say this is stepping back in the Wayback Machine, this is something that I used to do a long time ago. We would change headstocks. So, all right, let me show you what I'm talking about. I had a customer who spec'd a 8-string bass, and he wanted an upside down, or he wanted a left-handed neck, but he wanted it an Explorer style, reverse Explorer hockey stick headstock, 8-string bass. So I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then we went and did it and laid it out, and then he changed the tuners on me, and he switched to the gearless Steinberger tuners, which I thought, cool, that'll be awesome. The problem is that the headstock was very, very big, but it wasn't big enough to allow for your fingers to get around the back of the head. He chose a bunch of tuners that didn't really jive together. Okay. So I said, well, why don't we change the headstock? And this would be a reason. What I'm going to show you would normally be, let's just make a new neck, okay? But this is an old guitar that has been sitting around for a while, and it has an ebony fretboard. It's a 5-piece maple neck. It's got carbon fiber rods. It's got a regular truss rod. So it would take a long time to do, and I really want to get this guitar done. So what we decided to do is change the headstock. So let me show you what I'm talking about here, gang. This is the greatest headstock of all time. What do you think? So here's another angle. So this originally was a well, let's see, this piece, you know what, let me change the camera angle here. I think this will be good to kind of show you all what I'm talking about. Okay, so as you can see, the regular neck it's a 5-piece neck, and it's got all kinds of crazy angles and things built into it. And what I ended up having to do was, this was what it looked like before. And let's see here. Let's see. It looked. How did this go? Ah, yes. Okay. So this is what the headstock looked like before. The first thing that I did was I cut this chunk off, and then this line here. Well, actually, this guy. You can actually see this was the original board here. This piece I left on so that I could kind of squeeze this this chunk here. And so I cut the headstock off and I glued this new piece on. Then I cut the headstock off this way and I grafted this piece on so that I could have a new clean headstock surface. Now, as you can imagine, all this stuff is in the structural area where the tuners will go. We're going to need to put a cap on it to make it stable, and then of course grind all this stuff down to match the volute. And we'll blend this in, and we'll have to make this look like it was never done before, which means probably another plate on the back too. Okay. So back in the old days, it wasn't a big deal to you know, take a headstock, to take a neck that had a headstock you didn't like, and graft a bunch of material onto it and sandwich stuff together and change the headstock. In fact, I used to do that a lot on Epiphone guitars and BC Rich guitars. Epiphones were a little easier. What people wanted, you can just buy now. They wanted it to look like a Gibson headstock, so I would cut the sides of the Epiphone headstock off and glue new pieces on, and then shape it like a Gibson open book headstock. One thing I never did with that is I never changed it to say Gibson. I always left it saying Epiphone, which I thought was pretty cool, but I changed the headstock to look right. I even have a video about me doing that. We also did that with a lot of BC Riches. We changed the 6-in-line headstock to the original 3-on-a-side headstock on a number of BC Riches. because their 6 on a side headstock looked very dated and not as cool as the dated 3 on a side headstock. So this headstock will eventually get, I think we're going to go with some sort of an arrow headstock on this, which would be perfect. But so yeah, I've done a lot of this stuff in the past, and I got the original idea from the now deceased Ed Roman guitars. He would do this a lot, and I started doing it when I discovered that you could do it. I started doing it by reading Ed Roman talking about changing headstocks on existing necks. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do, but it is a fun thing to say, hey, look what this used to be, and now look what it is. So don't be afraid to change headstocks. You can graft new pieces of material on there, and you can sandwich some veneers to the front and back and make it really stable. And in fact, so stable that you'll never know it was there, especially if you do it with raw wood and then add paint later. No one will ever know. So anyway, guys, one word of caution though. I urge you to not create counterfeits, okay? So like I would never try to make an Epiphone into a Gibson. I mean, you guys know that's not exactly a tricky thing to do. Make something, say something else and be counterfeit. But we're not in the business of making counterfeits, right? We're in the business of making cool guitars. So, and personally, I think that the Epiphone headstock that looks like or Epiphone neck that looks like a Gibson with a Gibson headstock is just, now you can get it, but at the time it was kind of a head scratcher, and I really like doing those. But I never made them say Gibson ever, and you shouldn't either. Okay, gang. So thanks for hanging out with me. Just a quick little, I don't know, little sojourn into some stuff that happens around the shop that we don't do a bunch of videos on. And so have a good week, everybody. This is Matt at Texas Toast, reminding you, if you're so smart, start your own YouTube channel. That's what I did. We'll see you guys around. Thank you, as always, for your for being a patron of Patreon or a patron of YouTube. You guys help us out financially, and most of all, emotionally. So thanks for being there for us, you guys. And don't forget, a couple of you have altered your membership to be the Challenger level, the $100 a month, and kind of pay off your guitar that way. Excuse me. And a couple of new guys have done that too, so thank you to everyone who's signed up for, well, anything, even if you're paying $1 a month, and thank you to everyone who signed up for the Challenger level, and look forward to building guitars for you guys in the future. All right, guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you next.